I'd like to talk about shapers. Now, if you're not familiar with a shaper, we've talked about on the videos. So if you jump off to YouTube, you'll see the different types of personalities in the videos we've done there. We've talked about those previously. But, you know, there's many, many different ways we can break down a model of personality for managers and then give us some sort of framework in which to work with. But I've broken it down into 3 simple personality types because they're the bulk of the personality types that you see. And that's the shaper, the coordinator, and the engineer. There are, of course, many different personality types in managers, but those 3 are pretty dominant. And a little bit of that is in all of us. So it's a model. Don't forget, it's just a model. It's just, we keep these 3 to keep it simple and to give us a framework to deal with. So in this podcast, I'm wanting to talk about the shaper. The shaper is a good one to talk about because he's your traditional manager. He manages. He tends to order and know where he's going, what he's doing, and everybody else better get out of the way. He's very what you might call forthright. Not a people person in the great scheme of things, more a get-it-done sort of person. He has a low tolerance for people messing about or not getting things done. Shapers are effective, and so they are incredibly common in management roles because they don't tend to take well to being told what to do. They take very well to telling other people what to do, but not so much the other way around. And they also tend to have very strong opinions and back their opinions, back their own guesswork to where they should go. So shapers tend to rise because if you need somebody that knows where they're going, has faith in what they're doing, and is wanting to control people and has no fear about managing other people and dishing out orders, it's a shaper. So there are a lot of them around. And those personality traits make them quite abrasive as well as effective. We talked in the videos about the fact that each personality trait has positives and negatives. And the shaper's positives are drive, effectiveness, getting things done. But they have some quite big negatives. In fact, their negatives are possibly arguable, I guess. Some of the most impactful of the personality types. Shapers can be really quite, destructive. They can be arrogant. They can be abusive. They're the first to lose their tempers. They have incredibly low empathy for the rest of their staff. They really have to focus. It doesn't come natural to them. How is A or B going to affect somebody else? It's something they literally have to sit down and think their way through. So that's dangerous to have around somebody that is high energy, very fast at making decisions, effectively pushy and controlling, and has low empathy for the people around them. Shapers in particular have low empathy except for everybody except for themselves. They understand their own challenges and they tend to be target orientated. So if you know where he's trying to go and what he's trying to achieve, or she for that matter, there are certainly just as many shapers on both sides of the sexual divide, that's for sure. But if you know what they're trying to achieve, then you can get in behind them. If you're in any confusion as to what they're trying to achieve, it could be a dangerous time for you with a shaper because they're going there no matter what, and you're either going to help them or you're going to get in the way. They're incredibly target orientated. Now that might sound like a terrible person to work for, but they can actually be a very good person to work for. They're incredibly transactional. They tend to be black and white. They don't tend to play a whole lot of political games to get things moving. They tend to let you know bluntly what's happening. They can be workaholics, and they, if you're lucky, can be self-aware. In other words, know that they're a shaper, know that they're actually hard to deal with, and that they're quite pushy and driven, and that other people aren't like that. That's the key. If you have a shaper that's self-aware, you've got something you can work with and form a good boundary. The rest of it is perfect. But they need to know when to pull their own reins in a little bit. And if they're aware, self-aware and not intimidated by that, then you have a chance to do that. very good to know how to work with a shaper, and if you're a shaper, to know how to work with yourself when perhaps you need to be pulling the reins in. Now, shapers are bottom line driven and require clarity. They're the ones that are going to go straight to what's it cost and straight to prove that it works rather than the details. They're not particularly detail orientated usually. So be aware, if you've got a shaper, know where he's going or she's going, get him behind them and follow the plan. And they will back you completely if you're helping them drive along like that. The danger signs for shapers are when they're focused on problems. Shapers will impact and create whatever they put their energies into. So a good shaper is future focused or solution focused. They tend to look forward all the time, and they're not really too interested in what's gone wrong. They want to know how they're going to fix it if it's that sort of situation. But it becomes very, very problematic when you have a shaper that is, let's call them the myoptic shaper. The one that's short focused, looking at the problem, because that will create exactly what they're focused on, the problem, and it'll get worse. And they're very prone to look for whose fault was this, rather than the solution. That can be triggered by stress as well, because good or bad thing, we all tend to drop back to our natural state when we're under stress. And for a shaper, conflict is quite natural. So in a power situation where things are really ramping up, if you're a shaper, then you need to be critically aware, raise your vision. Don't be myopic. Look for a solution and drive towards that. And if you're working for a shaper, help them do that also. Focus off the problem itself and move on the solution. Go straight to the, how do we fix this? What's the new picture look like? And they will build it. They will tend to drive you in that direction come hell or high water. So shapers, good things, bad things. They are potentially one of the most destructive personalities, but they are also potentially one of the most constructive personalities for a manager. You just need to know, if you're a shaper, how to manage it. And I would strongly recommend, if you're a strong shaper, get on board with a coordinator or that sort of personality as a 2IC or somebody close by that can help you with that empathy, can help you with what is actually going on in the team. Because you probably know from experience, if you're a shaper, you don't notice that at all. It's almost like you've gone tone deaf, focused on a particular part of the puzzle. To all those shapers out there, good luck. You've probably built the world as it is. And to everybody else out there, be patient with them. They're hard driving, but hard achieving, and it's a great ride to be on if you can get in behind them.